What's up everybody and welcome to today's video. I'm your host Phil, and today's video I'm super happy to introduce you to Bogren Digital's TRIVIUM Drums drum library. Let's roll the intro clip and I get straight to work. Welcome again to today's video, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in. I'm super excited for today's video. I'm a huge fan of Bogren Digitals Drum-Packs. I reviewed last year in October, I think it was, the KRIMH free track, which totally blew me away. Certainly the best one there is out there for free. And I was super convinced and bought ahead the free pack and have not regretted it since. It has replaced my other drum software, which is mainly Stephen Slate SSD 5.5 and KRIMH Drums One Kit Wonder Architects. With that one I never really gelled with, but it was, to me personally, a big surprise that it kind of pushed SSD 5.5 off the throne and kind of placed itself firmly in there and remained there. So I'm super excited that Bogren Digital has bought out yet another drum pack with TRIVIUM Drums over here. With that out of the way, quick disclaimer, the software has been provided by Bogren Digital to free for me. I have reached out to them. I said, hey, listen up, I want to make a video on this, but you know, making the video, promoting basically the product, if it's good, takes a lot of time. Do you mind sending me out a copy so I don't have to actually on top pay for the product itself? And they were kind enough to send me out a copy with no obligations, so I can do whatever I want, have total creative freedom. This is not a sponsored video. I asked, by the way, also to join their affiliate program, so if you fancy picking this software up or anything else from Bogren Digital, would highly appreciate if you use my affiliate link. I get a small kickback out of that one, but you're still going to get my honest thoughts and opinions, although I'm already kind of going in with a positive attitude because I liked Bogren Digital KRIMH free and KRIMH Drums so much. Okay, next segment. Now, if you're somewhat into metal, I don't think that TRIVIUM really needs an introduction, but I'm still going to give you a few, side infos on TRIVIUM. They formed in 1999. They're a US-American metal band, mostly kind of related to the metalcore segment, but they have kind of a spin into thrash metal and, normal, usual heavy metal itself as well. They got a lot of influences out of those genres. Matt Heafy and everybody else in the band, I found out about Alex Bent being their drummer. Actually, they're absolutely great instrumentalists. And yeah, I've seen them a few times as an occasional bystander on festivals, and they always delivered live. They released 10 albums, made multiple world tours, so they're huge within the metal community and basically legends at this point. Nothing to discuss there or nothing to kind of object in that regard. Huge band. They already brought out some other cool plugins with Bogren Digital, the amp knob for rhythm guitar, lead guitar, and bass guitar. And now, they're completing the framework with TRIVIUM Drums, and yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm going to show you now where you can grab that over here. So let me quickly open the webpage. So Bogren Digital, there we go. Okay, now that we got everything set up, I'm going to move over here to the recording screen. You can go over here to TRIVIUM Drums, learn more, and then you're going to get all the mumbo jumbo over here, the PR stuff. And what is interesting is that TRIVIUM has recently re-recorded one of their classic songs, Ember to Inferno. I don't know that. I don't listen that much to TRIVIUM, but it seems to be one of their classic songs. They re-recorded everything with the Bogren Digital plugins, and it really sounds great. Now that sounds really good. You know, that's like a professional setup. I mean, there's surely some mixing involved in there, and I would assume that Jens Bogren did his, you know, his tone juice on that, you know. But nonetheless, really good sounding stuff over here. And yeah, TRIVIUM Drums, my personal impression so far is also really good, which we're gonna find out about in a moment over here. But before we do that, there's one important thing to notice, and that is that Bogren Digital's Drum-Packs work in using Kontakt. Kontakt is basically a sampler player, you know, like a synth sampler loader, where you can load different, different sample libraries. So I'm going to move back over here. So when you go to native-instruments.com and then go to products and then on free, then you can download this Kontakt 7 player. This is the software which you're going to use in order to load the drum samples. And what you will also need is native access. That is basically the Kontakt's kind of product manager software. And you would then go ahead and add the serial number, which you're getting out of the email from Bogren Digital after purchasing it. You add that serial, then you can install everything. You install the Kontakt player, and then you open Reaper and load everything up in Reaper respectively, or in whatever digital audio workstation you are using. All right, I got Reaper loaded over here. I got Kontakt 7 loaded up on a track which I just called Trivium. Let's just call that TRIVIUM Drums, because I got Trivium also down below here in the mix. Like, I got a full mix going on over here, the one which you just heard as the demo track. And yeah, Kontakt 7, when you first open that up, you're going to see either this or you're going to see this over here. This is the library view, and once you loaded a plugin, you can watch it either in the rack view or in the single view. Right now, we don't have anything loaded, so it looks like this over here. If I'm going to load the library here, TRIVIUM Drums, I'm going to load that first preset, you're going to see that the single view makes way more sense than the rack view over here, because you can see the entire drum kit in its glory over here. What you got over here is you got this Kontakt player bar, which I'm not going to dive into because that's not part of the actual TRIVIUM Drums. Over here you got this generic TRIVIUM Drums bar where you can set up different presets, you can tune down or up the kit, do a lot of other stuff over here with the panning and the volume. Not going to dive into that one really, because these three things and this over here is more interesting. So we got the kit view, we got the mixer, we got the grooves, and we got some settings over here, and these two stuff. Let's first go with the kit view. The kit view allows you to look at the kit, obviously. If you would have multiple samples, you could select them over here. However, what you get is what you see. So you're only getting one snare, one tom 1, one tom 2, one tom 3, and so on and so forth. So one entire kit. You're going to have that either processed or having it natural. Natural is less processed or raw. I'm not sure about that, but it is less processed, definitely. And yeah, by clicking on the single drums, you can actually hear them over here. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Let's move over to natural and see what that sounds like. First, we're going to listen explicitly to the toms. You can hear that everything has a little bit more crack when it comes to the processed. So process is perhaps what most people are going to be using. Especially in my case, I'm using this more not as a full drum kit, which I'm individually mixing. I'm using this kind of as a songwriting tool and on a stereo track. So there's that. If you want to use it with single tracks, there's a great video by, I think Jeremy is his name, but I forget his channel name. Anyhow, I'm going to link it down below. So he goes into detail in what to look at when it comes to, you know, setting this up for multi-tracks, basically. Okay, with that out of the way, let's move over to the mixer setup. The mixer setup, you got normal mixer faders over here, which are labeled with the respective things going on. You got the pan set and the volume set, depending on your respective preset, which you are using. For now, we're going to stay with the jump start, the processed one over here. Let me save that. Okay, so as you can see, whenever I go somewhere else, you have small changes depending on what your preset is saying. And down below here, you got this advanced panel. This advanced panel allows you to separate or to set up the reverb for the individual components and set up the bleed into the overhead microphones or into the room microphones. What does that mean? What does this sound like? Let's explore that for a moment. I'm just going to loop this segment over here where I'm taking a look at the ride especially. So now, the ride is quite obnoxiously loud. I mean, in the mix, it works out. It does crack through and it fits pretty well. But now, just let's pretend that we want to take away the ride. And we're going to do it like this. And now you're totally bamboozled because you still got ride, even though you're pulling down the ride here completely. Okay, maybe it's ride L. You still got ride. Why is that? The reason is you got bleed going on. So the different microphones are basically catching different parts of the kit. You know, like in that case, let's just listen to the overheads. Here you clearly can hear that the ride still is splashing into that microphone over. So if you want to kind of hinder that and you want to reduce that, you have to use the respective knob over here for either overhead or room, because we're now concentrating on the overhead. Obviously that's overhead. So if I want to have like a super loud snare into the overhead but no ride at all, then you could do it like this. Like so. So you get this full flexibility in setting up depending on what your mix preferences are and so on and so forth. Before we get into the grooves, let's talk about these different things over here because anti-machine gun and auto double kick are interesting. If you have like very quick, not velocities, but very quick intervals of hitting a drum over there, like, you know, blast beats, and you're hitting the snare like 1,000 times per minute, then what you usually want to have is that not every hit sounds exactly the same. You know, like you want to have a variation in the velocity over there. This is what anti-machine gun does. Unfortunately, I have no segment over here which I can really showcase this with. You got to take my word for it. It's basically varying the velocity of that. And auto double kick is doing something different. If you go to the kit view, if you listen closely, you can hear that bass drum 1, so bass drum left and bass drum right, are sounding a little bit different. They're not sounding exactly the same. They're slightly tuned different, and using that double kick effect will add more of a natural feeling to that. I have done that over here in the beginning section, over here in this part. Let me loop that. You can hear that there's a slight variation within the two double kicks. That's if you would just use one single piano note where you just use one double kick, then the auto double kick would do that. But in my case, I have done it already manually. As you can see over here, these are the bass drum notes, which are then, you know, moving like boom, 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 boom. Okay, let's close this window. And let's move over to this over here. This is the setting where you got the MIDI mapping. So in order to basically get this all to function, what you want to do is you got your MIDI keyboard and you are assigning different sounds to different notes. So when I go into the MIDI editor over here, this is my piano roll, is what it's called. And then using different buttons on that piano are triggering different sounds over here. And yeah, If you want to have this naming scheme over here, I'm going to provide the file for the naming, for the note names. I'm going to provide it down in the description below. I already did that for KRIMH. I have no idea if it's of use for anybody, but yeah, you know, the more you have, the better you are off. Okay, going to close this one over here, and then let's move to the MIDI Grooves. All right, let's move from the kit view to the grooves view over here. Before that, I'm going to save the project because that's one of the downsides. Kontakt 7 does sometimes crash when moving between menus. I'm sure that's something in regard of Kontakt 7 and not the actual TRIVIUM Drums. So I'm occasionally saving the project. Don't wonder if you see me doing that. Okay, kit view, grooves. What we want to do is, now if you're not fancy programming your own drums, like I have done here in the demo track, down below over here. So I've done all of that programming by myself. I know how that works. I've done that since quite some time. So if you're not fancy of doing that, or you just wanted to have a starting point, then what you can use is use MIDI packs. MIDI packs are pre-created grooves basically for you to, you know, just explore, just play a little bit around and do your thing. So if you go to grooves and then Alex Bent to the MIDI pack, you got these different tempos over here. Usually what makes most sense is to check what your project tempo is and then choose something over here which is fairly similar. I got 165 over here, and luckily so we got thrash metal 165 over here as well. We could use also hard rock 107 because that's quite close, but everything else which is like super far away, like 200 BPM, will sound strange if you're playing those grooves on a way different tempo. All right, what you want to do over here is, here you can audition the different grooves and the different fills over here with a certain playback speed, either half, normal speed, or double speed. And then by double clicking on one of these MIDI files, you're gonna audition them in a loop. So I'm just gonna go ahead and we're gonna do thrash metal fill 4. Let's go. At some point, you're kind of recognizing the pattern there, and you're kind of getting the idea that, okay, this is where it ends, like this one. That seems to be thrash metal fill 4 in that respect. Playing that on double speed doesn't make sense, but let's go anyway. As well as playback speed on half doesn't make too much sense. Okay. Let's go with the normal speed again. Once you got that loaded in here through the double click, what you can do is you can click on drag MIDI and drag that to your MIDI track in your DAW. In my case, Reaper over here works perfectly fine. And now we got the MIDI groove over here, and I can click on play. And it will play off that respective groove over here. I know already that Thrash Metal Groove 1 and Thrash Metal Groove Tom Groove 2 are working quite well, so I'm going to load them in. Gonna place them over here, and then Right, okay, so let me save the project. Now we got already something going on in regards of a groove, which we can use for creative use. For that, I already created a guitar track. So there we go, using the Josh Middleton. Gonna grab my guitar, which I got prepared over here. And now I'm just going to improvise something, you know? I'm just going to play like, I'm going to make the metronome on. You're not going to hear that perhaps. there you go. All right. That wasn't the best riff I ever wrote, but at least it works out. You know, you kind of get the idea on how you can use this creatively. And I think this is really cool, you know, that you got this option for people who, you know, just want to produce music and not necessarily kind of fiddle around with, you know, MIDI notes and MIDI keyboards and how to set up those things. That's a cool starting point. However, I personally highly recommend getting into knowing what's going on and doing your own MIDI grooves, because that's kind of the fun, you know, like doing your own customized stuff over here. Like, I don't want to loop this. Don't loop this. Okay, there we go. Like, you know, that's kind of, you know, part of the fun, to create music through this means. I think it's super awesome. I'm gonna eventually make a video on how I program MIDI drums. There's a ton out there who already explained it quite well, but maybe I can add something to the story. Let me know if you would be interested in something like that at all, before I kind of put in the work over there. Yeah, but nonetheless, this is pretty cool. Let's go to the next segment. Okay, we're back from the MIDI kits, back to the kit view. What I want to do now is I want to just jump through the different presets over here to kind of give you an idea how different or similar they sound, for a matter of fact. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just loop Thrash Metal Groove 1 and then just basically start a new preset at every, you know, spin. Okay, here we go. All right, you're already getting a good idea on what they sound like. They sound all very similar, to be honest. But, you know, Bogren KRIMH also sounded very similar, one preset to another. They were not that super different. They all had this, like, technical death metal affiliation to them, while this has more of this rock metal, thrash metal, metalcore style stuff going on, and sound aesthetic going for it. One thing which I haven't talked about is tuning, actually. You know, like, you can tune your stuff, you know, like if you want to have the snare tuned down, you can do that. I'm just gonna try out one thing, you know, just play the loop, solo the snare, and then tune it down. I mean, there's a lot of different things which you can set up over here, and all is a matter of, you know, finding that sweet spot of the respective settings going forward. But they're all usable straight out of the box, and this is what I really enjoy about this plugin so much. You know, you just smack it in there, you're good to go. You don't need to do like single processing and stuff like that. Stephen Slate is way harder in, just, smacking that in and not worrying about anything. So that's what I really enjoyed about KRIMH, and also really enjoy and find myself using here in TRIVIUM. Okay, with that out of the way, let's finally get to the final segment, comparing TRIVIUM versus KRIMH. All right, before we dive into the comparison between Bogren Digital TRIVIUM versus the KRIMH drum library, I want to talk about MIDI mapping and lose a few words about that. Now, usually you got your MIDI mapping specifically to your plugin which you're using. May that be Stephen Slate, may that be Superior Drummer, even KRIMH and TRIVIUM have different things which are unique to them. Like TRIVIUM has these crash choke hits, which sound like this, which are basically kind of hits and then choking them afterwards, instead of kind of having that specific hit and you gotta set the choke behind that. KRIMH does not have these choke hits. Instead, KRIMH has other things which are working out. So let's just assume that you would program something which was originally meant for Superior Drummer, but you now want to use TRIVIUM on it. What you can do is you can go over here and you can select the respective MIDI mapping. In that case, Superior Drummer 3. And now it will route the specific sounds to the mapping of Superior Drummer 3. So you could take that MIDI file, which originally was intended to be used with Superior Drummer, and now use TRIVIUM on that. Huge time saver. If you have like Stephen Slate, I at least programmed that. I think it was not stock that way. Or Guitar Pro files, for example, they often use the general MIDI assignment. So you want to use your Guitar Pro MIDI, you import that, set the general MIDI in TRIVIUM, and now you can just play it with the Guitar Pro MIDI, which you have programmed. I find that super useful in that case. However, when it comes to TRIVIUM and KRIMH, there's a lot of overlay, as you can see when I'm moving from KRIMH. There's like only a few things which are changing, like stuff like the ride left is not assigned because there is no ride left in KRIMH. I could use my MIDI tracks which I've created, I could use them like interchangeably between TRIVIUM and KRIMH. So, okay, with that out of the way, what do I got over here? Let me close this so we can do the comparison properly. We got TRIVIUM down here and we got KRIMH, and every time I'm clicking on this over here, it's flickering between KRIMH and TRIVIUM. On KRIMH, I'm using, let me go ahead. I'm using a preset which I call El Pipo. I think this is very similar to the El Smacco Grande or the El Smaquito, I'm not sure. And then just added a little bit in the mixing. So not much there. I just changed a little bit. So that's my preset over here. All right, I got everything loaded for the comparison. Both drum kits are set up over here, as you can see. And whenever I'm clicking down below over here, I am basically toggling between them. The upper one is KRIMH and the downward one is TRIVIUM. So in this configuration, it would be that KRIMH is now active, and if I would click on this and the other one turns red, that means that TRIVIUM is active. But you can actually see that also on the kit with a little bit of a delay going on. So I'm just going to start over here and then we're going to toggle between them. Okay, so far for the drums only comparison. Now we're gonna add the guitars and the bass into the mix and start the same thing from the beginning. We're gonna start with TRIVIUM. So they both have different qualities to them, where KRIMH is a little bit more delicate, a little bit more balanced in regards of not poking through. TRIVIUM sounds very big, very massive, kind of pushes forward. For this particular style of music, I think TRIVIUM outweighs KRIMH by a lot, because that hugeness of TRIVIUM is coming super handy into effect over here. Yeah, I think this is a perfect showcase of what the different drum kits are capable of doing. I would say for rather technical stuff where fidelity, detail is super important, then I would rather go for KRIMH. But for this big feel like stadium, feel like going on, I think TRIVIUM is the perfect counterpart to KRIMH in that aspect. So yeah, well done on both, and I love them both. But with that out of the way, let's go to the conclusion. Yeah, so the conclusion is obvious. TRIVIUM is clearly a winner for me. I think for the 90 euros which they ask for, this is not necessarily a no-brainer, because that's still quite a good chunk of money, but it's definitely worth the money which you are spending. You are getting a very, very strong and powerful tool at your hand for doing some awesome songwriting stuff. You get some cool MIDI drum packs, which are played by somebody who really knows their stuff. You know, Alex Bent, he's not nobody. Yeah, and it definitely can compete with Bogren's other offering, the KRIMH Drum Pack, which already was pretty much heralded throughout the community and people liked a lot. I really enjoy this. Of course, I'm kind of biased because I got it for free, so I didn't have the investment and, the payoff for it. It does suck sometimes that you have to use Kontakt. That's sometimes a real hassle, and setting it up is a little bit of a learning curve over here. But once you are through with that, I can really full-heartedly recommend it. I'm super excited. I'm really curious what you guys think out there. Do you like the mix? Do you like the drum sound so far? Do you like this format, this video format? Let me know down below in the comments. And with that out of the way, if you learned anything, then yeah, I would absolutely appreciate you subscribing to the channel. I'm going to put up a few videos on very soon. And with that out of the way, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today's video. Gonna see you soon in the next video. Until then, keep it metal.